Danzō's biggest moves in Naruto. In Naruto, there are characters we love to hate with all our might. And is there a bigger son of a bitch than Danzō? The guy is a total bastard, and there's no other way to put it. To prove my point, I've compiled Danzō's 10 worst acts. Get ready to feel your blood boil. I've already talked a lot about the hatred we feel for Danzō, and the worst part is knowing that this is just the tip of the iceberg. This guy's actions wreaked havoc from north to south across the 5 great shinobi countries, and their impact echoed for generations. I just touched on the subject of root, and if you're a Naruto fan, you already know this has everything to do with one of Danzō's darkest creations. But for now, let's follow in the footsteps of Jack the Ripper and break down, one by one, the 10 dirtiest moves Danzō pulled in Naruto. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell to stay updated, and leave a like to support the channel. Helping Orochimaru. Danzō's alliance with Orochimaru basically erased any good deed he might have done. Orochimaru was already being hunted down, not just for creating forbidden jutsu, but for using them without the slightest concern for human life. For Orochimaru, no sacrifice was too great, and believe me, a lot of people ended up in a coffin because of his experiments. This means Danzō was complicit in all of it. And things only got worse after Orochimaru became directly responsible for the death of Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage. If you think about it, without Danzō, Orochimaru would never have killed Hiruzen. So you can already feel the rage building up against this old bastard, right? Destroying an orphanage. Here, Danzō crossed every possible line. He decided that to increase his control over Konoha even further, he needed to keep a close eye on other nations. And for that, what better than to create the perfect double agent? With this diabolical idea in mind, Danzō went to an orphanage and demanded that the owner hand over some children for training. Yes, you read that right. He stole children to turn them into disposable root soldiers. And to make matters worse, he manipulated the situation so that Kabuto and his adoptive mother ended up on opposite sides of the battlefield. The result? Kabuto unknowingly killed his own mother, which helped turn him into the monster we later came to know. Now it makes sense why Kabuto sided with Orochimaru, doesn't it? Better to be next to a venomous snake than anywhere near Danzō. Stealing Shisui's eyes. One of Konoha's greatest fears had always been a coup from the Uchiha clan, something that was about to happen. But believe it or not, Shisui Uchiha already had a solution to prevent this civil war. He planned to use Kotoa Matsukami, a genjutsu so powerful that it could alter people's will without them even realizing it, to calm tensions and prevent the coup. But then came Danzō, the great bastard of the story. He simply didn't want an Uchiha to have that much decision-making power. On top of that, he was still paranoid about the Nine Tails attack years ago, so he chose to eliminate Shisui and steal his Sharingan. Yes, Danzō was directly responsible for the death of one of the most talented Uchihas to ever exist. And this action led to another terrible event that we'll talk about later. Cold-blooded murder of a messenger. On the day Nagato attacked Konoha, a messenger toad from Mount Myoboku was sent to assess the situation. But before it could complete its mission, Danzō cowardly assassinated it. And what was the reason? Simple. The toad was supposed to warn Naruto about Nagato's attack. Without this warning, Nagato had enough time to destroy the entire village without resistance. If you think Danzō did this to protect Naruto, think again. The truth is, he deliberately wanted to delay Naruto's return. Without Naruto, the only person capable of facing the Akatsuki leader was Tsunade. And Danzō's plan worked perfectly. Tsunade exhausted all her chakra healing the wounded and ended up falling into a coma. And guess who was the first to volunteer to become the next Hokage? That's right, Danzō himself. Taking advantage of Konoha's destruction to become Hokage. I just talked about Danzō's schemes in the previous section, but this goes beyond just killing a toad. Danzō had been eyeing the Hokage position for years, and his best chance came during an event that nearly wiped Konoha off the map. This guy wanted everything to burn down just so he could prove he was capable of reaching the highest rank in the ninja world, And yes, the Hokage holds a significantly higher status than the other Kage. During the 5 Kage summit, Danzō himself attended as Konoha's representative. Fortunately, he didn't get to enjoy that position for long. Fleeing the 5 Kage summit. Running away before things get ugly is a classic Danzō move. During the 5 Kage summit arc, Danzō represented Konoha because Tsunade was still in a coma after Pain's attack. But when Sasuke arrived with the sole purpose of killing him, the guy ran. Obviously, this tainted Konoha's reputation. From a strategic standpoint, it was somewhat understandable. After all, Sasuke had personal reasons for wanting Danzō dead, but at the same time, it seriously damaged the Hokage's credibility. Luckily, Tsunade later reclaimed her position, and the 5th Hokage restored much of the respect that office deserved. Attempted assassination of the 3rd Hokage. As if wanting to take the Hokage's seat wasn't enough, Danzō went so far as to try to kill the 3rd Hokage, to claim the position for himself. There was an incident where Hiruzen was walking through the forest and was ambushed by members of Root, Danzō's secret Anbu faction. And of course it was Danzō who gave the order. When Hiruzen returned to the Hokage's office, he found Danzō sitting in the Hokage's chair. The guy really thought he had managed to get rid of Hiruzen, and yet Hiruzen forgave him and chose to move on. Honestly, Hiruzen's kindness is something I will never understand. If it were up to me, Danzō's head would have been served on a platter. The Uchiha Massacre. You already knew I was going to bring this up. This is the greatest tragedy in Konoha's history. I mentioned it earlier when discussing Shisui, and now it's time to revisit it. Danzō's greatest crime was setting the stage for the Uchiha Massacre to happen. Hundreds of families were wiped out in a single night, all due to the paranoia-fueled fear that the Uchiha were a threat. And how many survived? Only 3, Itachi, Sasuke, and Obito. The consequence of this disaster was that Itachi threatened Danzō, warning him not to harm Sasuke. And of course, this threat disappeared when Itachi died. But the problem was, Sasuke would inevitably come after that bastard, and it didn't take long for him to do so. The arm covered in Sharingan. Once again, we return to the topic of Orochimaru. This time, let's talk about how Orochimaru helped Danzō develop an arm covered in stolen Sharingan from the Uchiha that were massacred. So, to Danzō, the Uchiha were dangerous, but he had every right to use the very power that made them a so-called threat. The hypocrisy is off the charts. With this arm, which originally belonged to Shin Uchiha, plus a touch of Hashirama's cells, and the power of Izanagi, Danzō entered his final battle against Sasuke. And honestly, Danzō completely underestimated how much that pile of stolen Sharingan would fuel Sasuke's rage even more. He even went so far as to use a hostage as a human shield. The proof that Sasuke was completely consumed by vengeance was the fact that he eliminated Danzō without hesitation. Using Karin as a hostage. In the end, Danzō was clearly defeated. But at the first opportunity, he grabbed Karin and used her as a human shield. What a pathetic move. Karin was a medical nin, completely unequipped to fight Danzō. And of course, Sasuke didn't hesitate. The point here is that Danzō would use anyone as a pawn and abuse any opportunity to come out victorious. To me, he played a massive role in Naruto's story. It's no wonder his nickname was the Darkness of the Shinobi.